Novak and is basically, I thought he was playing great in Australia. Obviously, the match against Alcaraz was great, but even the two leading into that, beating Mahac, who I think is a top 10, will be a top 10 guy, 1-4-4, beating Lehechka, who I think will be a top 10 guy, 3-4-6, toughing Alcaraz out. Sets 3 and 4 of that were like vintage Novak from 2 years ago or before. But do you fear that we're entering this phase where you get to a certain age, and even if you're a superhero like Novak is and has been, and he's fought off time as well as anyone in tennis history, French last year, it's like knee, and then he manages it and somehow on one leg gets to the final of Wimbledon, wins the Olympics, which is just, I think you just got to have willpower. I think that gets used too much. I think that was like an example of that. Not playing much the rest of the year, coming in, and all of a sudden there's another tear where I think it's going to be, I'd be shocked if we saw him in the next couple of months. Talk about that process of not only dealing with injury, but also the process of being injured. And it doesn't just mean once that injury is healed, you can go play. You have to cycle up and get into shape, right? So talk about the process of kind of falling behind to your injuries, what that does to you mentally before it even affects you more physically.
Yeah, I think there's, at his stage in his career, it's almost like worth trying to push it a little bit, like he did here in Australia, right? Like
which he did, by the way, like a big time.
He did, for sure. Yeah. Like he definitely pushed it to a point where the tear probably got even worse and worse. And, I had it during, I think, my last Wimbledon. Like I had a little stomach tear, and I tried to just adjust my toss and I won, and then went for another MRI, like a little ultrasound down at the, the doctors at Wimbledon there. They checked it again. The tear was a little bit bigger, and then you go back, and I won the second round, a little bit bigger. So the tape gets harder. Everything you try to deal with everything. You take a little bit more medication. The thing is with Novak, we've been so used to seeing him get through it all, with like the recovery things that he does, with his mental strength. Like it's almost like we just think it's normal that he will heal from this during the tournament, and then people question whether or not he's telling the truth when it is happening. And that's where I'm like, it is already annoying enough when you have a problem. Like, you don't want people to question whether you're being honest or not, right? Like that's like it's annoying. Like it's, and I do feel like with him, people are questioning a lot of it. Like I remember people saying, like, I don't even know if he had his knee surgery, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just fear that at that age, if you get in the cycle of rehab, do you get to the points where you can train enough to make your body strong enough? And at a certain point, like your body, I mean, he's been literally covering ground, digging out of corners. He's like Gumby, as far as how he contorts and puts himself in positions. And it's so weird because we act surprised every time someone gets older. Right? Like we're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's like, but it's like, it's gonna happen. I'm just curious.
But the process is also hard for him, right? I can imagine where you still have, I'm sure he has goals still to achieve.
He still has the ability, by the way.
Yeah. But mentally too, like it's when you get through that process, okay, now he had to retire, and
it's so funny going into this tournament. They're like, well, can he still play with the top guys? And I'm sitting here going, okay, in my little like shame valley in my own brain, I'm going, oh, okay, so wait a minute. He made the finals of Wimbledon. He won the Olympics in the last 6 months. I go, so that was like my best year ever. I'm going like this is, it's like the shadow that he's created for himself is so ridiculously dumb and full of accomplishments. It's like, it's this weird conversation now that I didn't like it. Listen, you can disagree with someone, personally, and I went off on, so please watch back our quick served episodes from the last 2 weeks where we go into a lot more detail about a bunch of the different players. I know we focused on a couple of them here, but it's just, like the booing someone when they're going off, even if you don't know if they're really hurt, you don't boo. if you suspect they're not hurt, but there's a chance that they're telling the truth, you don't boo. Like, I just hated the fact that he's leaving the court to booze. And I understand he likes the friction. He invites the friction in. He thrives off of, and at times has created controversy because he operates well in that space. I get all that. But at a certain point, if you're a tennis fan, respect has to win out. I'm not telling you to cheer for someone that you don't want to cheer for. I'm saying there's a million miles between not being an out and out fan of someone and also booing someone who's one of the all-time greats when you don't know if you're going to see them again. I didn't like that. It made me feel icky on the inside. I didn't like that. And someone who had, I mean, you had a great relationship with the Australian crowd. They love you as much as they've ever loved anyone. And like, how did you feel when you saw that moment where he's?
I don't like it. I don't like it. It doesn't matter where it happens. Like, I don't like it. Like these are, players, and I even think Osaka, when she was it in the final of the lead up tournament, that she pulled out like after the first set. Like, there were some people, like, I think a lot of times people are more like, oh, I paid this money and I want to watch it, like, I want to watch, like, I think that also kind of creeps in there a little bit with Novak. I do think people like to go against it because they know they're going to get a reaction, and I feel
totally,
I don't like it.
Which feeds the beast a lot of the times when Novak gets that reaction.
And which is why he's also posting his MRI results, right? Like, it's because he wants to shut everybody up and see, like, listen, this is, I'm not faking anything. Like,
I just didn't like to see it. It was no
but
good.
There's a lot has been happening. Like, there's, like, I even saw it like with David Goffin. Like, he's gotten like from like the French crowd. Like, people are like so much more outspoken, saying things about like his family, like really, really nasty. And there's.
I feel like the things that people have said online for the last 10 years, it's like slowly creeping into reality.
Into real life, people are like,
which is
things that they would type are now.
Yeah. And we're and listen, I get I paid for these. I paid for these seats. But to me, it's like, well, a rock band, if they're not feeling well, they play. I'm like, yeah, the results baked in. They could give you their worst show ever, and half the crowd's going to leave going, dude, they fucking rocked it. Yeah. Like, it's the results baked in, right? It's not as if Aerosmith is competing against the Beatles every night. Like, they're competing against their own shadow, and they'll have bad shows. That's not the same thing. Because you paid money, and I hate it for you, it sucks because you want the best ever, but does you spending money on someone who's carrying an injury into a match, is that supposed to guarantee someone's health? Like, there's like a divide between logic, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, but I do think a lot of people like kind of have that feeling like, oh, we didn't get our money's worth. And I know the tournaments try
sports.
to, add a Legends doubles match or something to try and make up for.
That's not the solution. Yeah, that's not the solution.
A little bit of lost time. But
yeah,
it's
I don't know.
Unfortunate. I mean, listen, I believe that he wants to be out there with trying to compete for trophies, and
listen, like, nothing would please him more than to shut everyone up with a victory. Like, I promise you, he thrives on that. That's what he would. All he wanted to do is give that, like, I told you so thing at the end. I promise you. Like,
and he can still do it. I don't doubt that, but it's just
Same. I do think his best chance is at Wimbledon now. So
tear.
yeah.